And it is my honor to introduce the incoming Rotary International Director for Zones 33 and 34, my friend Patrick Eakes. Patrick, take it away, sir.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you for that introduction. Normally, at this part of the show, you would be seeing and hearing from a handsome, debonair guy with a British accent, Jeremy Hurst. Instead, tonight, you're getting a Southern American who is one day off of laryngitis. So I hope you will bear with me with my voice that's a little bit compromised right now. Jeremy did record a message for us to use tonight. We had some technical trouble with that. So the next couple of minutes, I'm going to share with you his remarks that he wanted to share this evening. So these are Jeremy's words. Good evening, and thank you for your attendance at the latest MAP webinar. 2.5 years ago, a dedicated team of membership-oriented, or maybe I should say membership-obsessed Rotarians got together to formulate a plan to help clubs be more intentional about their growth and development. That was the start of what we now call the Membership Action Plan, or MAP. And we're very proud of the progress we have made, not only within the clubs within our two zones, but to a much wider audience throughout the world. And our plan has been adopted by many other clubs in those zones. The thinking behind MAP also caught the attention of the Rotary Foundation, of Public Image, and both now have action plans with a Foundation Regional Action Plan, or FRAP, and a Communication Action Plan, or CAP. If that wasn't enough, a fundamental premise of MAP, that it is a year-on-year continuous process and plan, was the basis for a change at Rotary International. The RI board has more recently adopted rolling 3-year goals through the whole organization. This represents a considerable change in mindset, and we should be very proud that our zones have been at the forefront of these developments. So, as I get near to the end of my term as your director, I want to thank you all for your part in the success of MAP by giving the plan your attention, by attending these webinars, and implementing the ideas that are put forward. Your efforts to keep membership front and center have placed our zones at the top of the membership growth graphs in North America. Most importantly, thank you for your willingness to promote the Membership Action Plan program so that we can help all our clubs be the best they can be for the communities they serve. As I mentioned, this is not a boom or bust program. Its aim is consistent, sustainable growth, and we're fortunate to have an incoming director who fully embraces the action plans and goal-setting aims of RI zones, districts, and clubs. So I'm delighted to leave this position, knowing that these plans and programs are in the safe hands of Rotary International Director-elect Patrick Eakes. You'll be hearing from him, or me as it is, a little later in this webinar. Before I pass the microphone to my good friend Andy Van Hook, I want you all to know it's been an absolute pleasure to serve with you, and I leave you with a sincere hope that you will continue to work for the betterment of our clubs by spreading the word and encouraging participation in our action plans. After all, this program is developed with the clubs in mind. I look forward to our Rotary paths crossing again very soon. Now, over to you, Andy.
Thanks, Patrick. The Membership Action Plan was developed to give you as club leaders easy-to-use tools to help grow your club's membership. The top 10 tips were taken from the webinars from this past year. The tips fell into the categories of club experience, finding great new members, asking and informing members, engaging members, and building a plan. Let's dive in. Are your guests bored in your club meetings? Eric Johnson shares what his club experience is like in our first tip.
Your regular weekly meetings should be for your guests. It's the chance to show off your club. It's the chance for that guest to come in and say like, wow, I can be really involved in something here. The regular meetings are not for your members. Your members already know what your club does. Your members know the opportunities there are to engage in the community. Your members know how fun it is. But the guests, what's the guest going to walk away with? The guest really needs to see and hear everything that your club does and can do in the community so that they leave saying, oh yeah, I want to be involved in that. If your whole meeting is spent on something that should be done in a committee meeting outside of the meeting, what's the guest thinking? The guest is going to be bored to death in that meeting. You don't want to bore your guest. You want to wow your guest.
In tip number 2, hear how Amy Benton's club used surveys to improve club experience.
When my leadership team met for the first time back last spring, we decided that we wanted a fun family atmosphere where everyone truly cared about each other. First, we needed to find out exactly what our members were looking for in their Rotary experience. So what we did was to send out a survey, and then we met with some of the members that we had lost over the last few years and polled them to find out maybe the things that we were doing right, or maybe some things that we weren't doing right. One of the biggest needs we found in our club was communication. People really wanted to know that they were important in our club. They were a part of that Rotary family. And so we set up lots of ways that we could communicate with our members and lots of opportunities that would begin with day one of membership.
Philip Brown's club identified who was missing from their club, then went to work finding great new members. Here's tip number 3.
Our growth over the past few years has come from a targeted approach to prospecting. Our leadership named an unrepresented or underrepresented population in our club: fire, police, EMS, and teachers, all public servants. We developed a list of people we know who hold the same values as Rotary. We used a Google Sheet, but you can also use DACDB or other ways to organize your leads. Leadership held one-on-one meetings with the heads of the various groups and recruited directly from those areas. What we found was our biggest population came from the educators. Once your leads are generated and you've organized them, etc., you call them and invite them personally. You explain the good work. Finding the right fit is critical. Being overly selling or persuasive is not a good thing. Truth and fairness runs deep within our organization. I think it's important to be honest and real. Undersell and overdeliver is always a great policy. And when you overdeliver with all the good things, it's contagious.
In tip number 4, J.J. Lullen's club adopted an impact club model to connect to community neighbors and found great new members.
We have a neighborhood very close to where our Rotary Club meets. And as we started talking about impact, we started asking ourselves, wondering out loud why we don't have any members from that neighborhood. And we had thought about it. We wondered, are our dues too high? Is the time commitment too much? And then impact allowed us to reduce those 2 hurdles. And as we did that, we already right now have 2 members from that neighborhood. Let's not limit our village just to a zip code or some county boundary. For example, where the hospitals where we serve, we want to consider it our hospital. Wherever school we support, we want to consider that our school. Whatever neighborhood we walk into, we want to consider that our neighborhood. This is what we want to create, this group of people who openly live and view any community as deserving the good things that happen all around them, as if this was happening right outside our front door.
David Peltzer wanted to finish the year strong. Check out the competition they created to find great new members in our 5th tip.
Our year-end membership competition had 3 goals. First and foremost was to increase our membership. Second, bring in younger members. Our board of directors had recently added a junior membership category with reduced dues to encourage younger members to join. Third, we wanted to better reflect our community by adding more female members. During the 3 months competition, we brought in 9 new members, an increase of 27%. We also built more club camaraderie and a better connection with club members. Team UNC did, in fact, serve breakfast to Team UVA. Most importantly, it helped build momentum for our growth over the coming years, as well as helped our club better reflect our community in age and sex demographics.
Every club will lose members. Zone 33 Rotary Coordinator Terry Weaver shares how to build a plan based on the facts in our sixth tip.
Well, attrition is pretty predictable based on the average membership loss of a given club over, say, the past 3 years. And successful clubs realize they need at least enough new members to replace those that are likely to terminate, which will be about the same number as usual, plus some for moderate growth, whatever that growth goal is. You know, in our businesses, we realize that we have to get new orders each month, starting at the first of the year, in order to meet our revenue goals, right? Well, wouldn't the same apply to new members in a Rotary Club? In the Membership Success Center, we've built a progress dashboard that works on that basis, looking at the club's net membership growth goal, then adding the number of additional members needed to replace those likely to terminate based on our recent attrition history.
Surveying your club helps understand your members' needs, and their needs might be simpler than you think. Hear what Rich Ungaro learned just by asking in Tip 7.
Also, they wanted to know, how do I bring a guest? How do I do that? So we actually had a session where we taught them how to bring a guest. And a lot of times we found out that they were hesitant to bring a guest because they were afraid the club wouldn't like their guest, and they were afraid that their guest wouldn't like the club. So that's where we came up with a celebratory thing of making them stand up, sing a song to them, shake their hand. So at the end, the guests at the end always told the person that invited them, I love this club.
New members can struggle getting to know other members during a regular club meeting. Tracy Hajir had that experience as a new member and decided to do something about it. Check out how she engaged new members in Tip 8.
I was also concerned about how I could make new members more comfortable in the beginning of their experience. That was one of the memories I had when I was a new member, that I just never felt quite connected. I never felt like I could create a conversation. Our meeting time were so short that it just was never conducive to that. So I thought, how would I connect them to more seasoned members? So I created a bingo card game. Each member's name was listed on the card, and each new member was given a sheet. On each table were sheets of star stickers. The new members were expected to introduce themselves to someone they didn't know and say a bit about themselves, and the seasoned member would in turn talk a little bit about themselves, and then they'd place a star on their name on the card. When the new member had the card 80% filled, they received a goodie bag, which was just basically tchotchke I'd gathered from business members in our club. Ended up being a huge success. Not everyone had their card filled in, but it definitely broke the ice and gave them a reason to speak to each other initially.
Membership growth is a team sport. In tip number 9, Don Harris shares how to start building a plan.
The primary factor for our district was to lead by example, and we implemented a district membership action plan. Well, just as important as a plan is to encourage your clubs and to get your members to fully engage. And you begin with the surveys, as David mentioned, club assemblies, having them look at their year-over-year results, helping them understand the attrition rates are real and how they must begin conversations about how clubs can be more intentional and implement better solutions for whether they need lead generation, onboarding of new members, or try to increase retention of their members. Providing our clubs with this tangible tool, this membership action plan template, was such a meaningful step to first help them get started to being intentional about their membership attraction, retention, and engagement.
Mary Ligon highlights why setting goals and making a plan matter in tip 10.
You are 75% more likely to achieve goals if they are written down. Also, if they are challenging but achievable, that will lead to better performance 90% of the time. And then weekly progress reports increase your success rate by 40%. All of that adds up to, if you will write down your goals, make a plan, and give or have regular progress reports, you are 72% more likely to achieve those.
With so many great tips this year, 10 just wasn't enough. We've got a bonus tip for you. Does your club have FOMR? Eric Johnson's club has created that club experience.
FOMR, kind of a funny thing because, again, our meetings are so out there and crazy. People started missing the meetings and they would text me like, I missed Rotary. I missed it today. What happened in the meeting? What was so I was like, you got FOMR, don't you? It's like, you don't have fear of missing out. You have fear of missing Rotary.
So there you have it. Our top 10 tips plus one bonus tip from the Membership Action Plan on how to grow membership in your Rotary Club. Want to learn more? Go to rizones33-34.org/membership-action-plan to watch the past webinars in full, download how-tos, and get more easy to implement ideas.
Thanks, Andy. I know a lot of people are going to go to the MAP website to review these tips. I'm Mike Dara. I'm the Rotary Coordinator for Zone 34. I'm here to do the questions and answers. But first off, if you have people in your club who haven't seen any MAP webinars, this top 10 list is a great way for your new club officers to get ideas to help your club be even better. And they can go back to the original webinars on this same page if they want to get the full story for each of these 11 ideas. So now let's go to some questions and answers. Please, to give us your questions, click on the Q&A button on the bottom of your screen to add questions, and I will ask those questions then of our panel. Our panel that we have tonight is Jose Gonzalez. He is the membership officer for Zone 33 and 34 based out of Atlanta. He is actually a staff person on the membership team at Rotary International. Mary Ligon will be the Rotary coordinator taking my place on Zone 34. And Terry Weaver is the current Rotary coordinator for Zone 33. So let me look here. I've got a couple of questions here. Mary, one of these questions is, it seems like there are a lot of things we have to think about. How do you expect me to do all this?
Well, as the club president, you are the chief executive or experience officer for the club. Spread out the work, learn how to delegate. You want a team helping you do all of the things that you have to do this year, and specifically a full membership team. Not just one person can get it all done. Also, find those folks that are really interested and enjoy working with people or organizing information. Those will be helpful for you and for your membership team. And let them know why it's important to the group. Do you know why? It's because we want to have a greater impact, so we need more members in order to do that. And of course, absolutely have to make it fun.
Thanks, Mary. We've got another question here, and I will ask Terry to handle this one. How do you get younger members to come more than once? They say they're too busy. We've even offered an evening meeting. We need some ideas, please.
I think it boils down to having a meeting experience that is just irresistible. Fear of missing Rotary is what it's about. What your younger members are really saying is, this isn't worth it to me. I've got other things to do that are more important to my life than what's happening during the Rotary meeting. So maybe it's the product itself. Have a hard look at that.
So Terry, question for you just on a follow-up. Some clubs have talked about a satellite or something like that for perhaps young professionals. Does that work in getting a different sort of experience for them, but yet tying them to the club?
Well, yes, it does. And satellite or companion clubs, some favor that term, can organize, for example, an after-hours meeting, a 5 p.m., 5:30 meeting, where there's not a lot of ceremony. There's not an invocation. There's not a pledge. There's not all that stuff we do in a regular Rotary meeting, but rather the younger members just want to come do something and go home. And a companion club organized just around this idea of, say, an impact style club, where it's about meeting once a month to plan a project and then doing a project roughly once a month, which may or may not be at the same time. It could be, you know, a Saturday or whatever. And so that's been a popular extension of a Rotary Club. Meet these prospects where they are. And if they don't want to come to a sort of formal, structured, somewhat staid, and of course you got to have time for lunch and all that, and you got to pay for lunch, offer them something different. After hours, 5:30, I can surely see within our lifetimes that the dominant model for a Rotary Club will be a non-meal club. You just show up, we do what we're going to do. If you want to stick around afterwards, that's on you. That's just fine.
Okay, we did ask, someone asked if we could provide a copy of the top 10 list, and I'll ask someone in our back room there to put in chat how you can get a copy of the top 10 list. The easiest way is to get it in the actual video. We'll be posting that video on the site that Andy mentioned earlier this evening. So another person said, we're in the process of having our first satellite club, and I'm also reaching out to a nearby high school for an impact club. Will those members be counted toward our membership goals? Mary, could you answer that one for us?
Well, sure. So in a satellite club or a companion club that's attached to the parent or host club, those members count toward the total club membership.
Okay, if they're talking about actual high school students, would those folks be considered members of a Rotary Club if they're under, is there a certain age limit for a Rotarian?
So I think if you're talking about the students themselves, you're probably talking about an Interact Club, and those would not count toward a Rotary Club's membership. But if you're talking about administrative staff, the teachers in the high school being in a satellite or an impact club associated with a regular or traditional Rotary Club, those do count towards your membership.
Okay, thank you. Jose, I've got one. I know in your club, you've got this situation. How can senior Rotarians and new Rotarians work together to bridge that generation gap? Do you all set up something to handle that? What did you do?
Thank you, Mike, for the question. And you are correct. The best way that I've seen where it's worked is to create a mentorship program, one in which you actually partner up your most senior individuals, not necessarily by age, but by experience in the club, with those younger professionals that are looking for those avenues to develop their professional skills and learn more about Rotary. So a simple buddy system that partners them up, allows them to learn from one another if they're meeting separately outside of Rotary meetings or at service projects to collaborate.
Okay. I've had two questions here regarding club assemblies or strategy meetings. And I'll read this one because I think we all identify with this. And I'll ask any of the three of you if you want to jump in on this. So we try to hold a membership strategy meeting for our club, but it's not well attended, even if we plead for everyone to be involved. This is vital for our club's future. How do we get better attendance?
Well, I'll take a stab at it. And the same solution is not always, doesn't work for everybody. I have seen clubs that take one meeting out of the quarter, like maybe when there's a 5th meeting of the month, and make that a committee meeting program. And maybe they start with the pledge and the invocation, but the program itself is for the committees to sit around their specific tables and do committee work, which relieves having another meeting to have to go to during the year. So that might work for some groups.
So Mary, a question for you on that. When Eric Johnson was talking about making a meeting just resonate for the members, I saw one of the people in Q&A said, yeah, if you make it a wow meeting, it's really going to wow everybody, not just the visitors. But what do you do so that your visitors don't show up on those, administrative type days? Is there anything that you've seen people be able to do to avoid that?
Well, some people will make that clear that goes out in their newsletter that this isn't the best meeting to invite guests to, so that they're identified specifically as a club assembly for members only. Of course, you may always have somebody show up that you didn't expect, and I think you can incorporate them into, here is somebody that's not a member of our club, but could provide us valuable input and information on what we're working toward in our plans.
Okay, thanks. And back to you, Jose. I've got a question about a satellite or impact club. Some of the older folks, feel, let's call them more seasoned Rotarians, think it will destroy the club. How do we deal with that fear? When you all put together your satellite club, I think, do you have just one club, or I know you've got a very large club with a bunch of interact clubs. How did you all deal with that fear?
Oh, well, first and foremost, Mike, we started by looking at the data, looking at the information that's available for all the impact, companion, and satellite clubs that have been created to see how successful they've been and how that model has worked for other clubs. From then, we were able to have the discussion at our club meeting and talk about the benefits that come out of it, all the resources that are added in when you have these additional support systems of additional members to do more work and more service. So just having the real life conversation with real data points helped us really bridge that gap and remove the fear.
Okay, thank you. And it is always a delicate balance to try to hear the senior members and also try to move the club forward. So here's another question. If you have a small club with about 14 members, not to be specific, but with no committees, how do you get the business done if you don't talk business at the meetings? Anybody want to take that one on? Mary, you've had a smaller club. I mean, it's not 14 members.
Well, I think similar answer as the other one. What works in one club is not necessarily appropriate for another club. And I wonder if in a very small club, how often do you really have guests coming? And so you may be able to target your planning for content during a club meeting to be those committee meetings like I mentioned earlier, because you may not have guests very often. I even heard recently a club was specifically planning to have targeted days, program meetings that they invite potential members or guests to, all focused on coming at the same time, so that it wasn't just members inviting kind of anytime you could show up. It was focused on having a targeted meeting for guests. So that's another way to do it.
Thank you. I saw a couple of questions about corporate memberships. They wanted to find out, is there an idea for pricing these memberships? Any of y'all, Terry, Jose, either one of you, have you dealt much with corporate memberships?
Sure.
Yeah, Terry.
Our club established corporate memberships going back almost 3 years ago. It's been very successful for us. And we followed that on shortly with the establishment of a family membership, and both work exactly the same. Now, I'll explain how it works in my club. Your club could be different, of course. But in my club, we're a larger club, and like many clubs, we pre-bill for meals. So as a result, when you add up the meals, which are about $500 a year, with the other costs of being in a Rotary club, we're talking about a sticker price in the $800–900 range. And in our corporate membership model, the primary, what we call the primary corporate member, the lead dog, if you will, is the primary member. And that person is treated just like any other active member. In other words, they prepay for meals, they expect you to come to meetings, that sort of thing. And then they can bring in some what we call associate corporate members. And the difference between those is not that they have a lower due structure. because they're full-fledged Rotarians. They're members of our club, they're members of Rotary International. And so they pay the same dues as the primary member, but we waive that prepayment of meals. And that takes about 60% of the sticker price right off the table. Secondly, there is a prepaid meal. So if the primary member doesn't attend, one of the associates attend, there might be 1, 2, or 3. One of the associates attend, they get to eat the prepaid meal. If they both show up, then the second person pays at the door, just as you would with a guest, or in our case, R85s, we don't pre-bill for meals either. And that has been enough. Just that pre-billing differential has been enough to make both the family membership and the corporate membership fly. You could, of course, charge something different for the primary and associate members. You could discount the associate, as some clubs do. We have a YP32, a young professionals category for people under 32 years old, where we discount our dues by half. Now they still prepay for meals, but they get a dues discount until they're 32. You could do the same thing for, say, the associate members if you still have enough money in the due structure to cover your Rotary International and your district dues. Those are some ideas. If you go to the zone website, rizones33-34.org, and put corporate in the search, you'll see many of these kinds of ideas.
So, Terry, there's one question that came up about corporate members, and it said they chose in their club to not charge the second and third and fourth member from that club. They didn't charge them anything. They just had them on as members, or maybe they charged them a small amount, but it didn't cover the cost of Rotary dues. So they didn't file Rotary dues with those folks. Yet they were very concerned because those second, third, and fourth members didn't show up in their membership counts for the club. What's with that?
Well, that's because they aren't in Rotary. And I would borderline discourage, I would not encourage that membership model. And here's why. You got to ask yourself, what are these people members of? You can't be a member of a Rotary club without being in Rotary. So you're not that. And of course, you can't hold a club office. You can't chair a committee. There's a whole lot of can'ts that go along with not being actually part of the club. And at the end of the day, you got to ask yourself, what are they members of anyway? So I think you may want to regroup on that and rethink, would these people not be better off, and would they not be at least as happy if they were members of Rotary? Now, considering that Rotary is not that expensive. Meals are expensive, other things are expensive, but if you roll up just the cost of district RI and an allowance for club dues, you're talking about something in the neighborhood of $180 a year. That's not going to break many household budgets. So I'd encourage you to rethink a moderate due structure for those folks. Bring them into Rotary. That way they're part of your membership count. And here's where this really falls apart. We had one of our clubs that actually nominated one of those non-member members as president. Imagine the scramble when we tried to get him into pets and couldn't find an RI member number for him. I mean, there's some real downsides to this route.
Yeah, I've confronted a number of those. You mentioned the site, Terry, where you can read the corporate ideas. Can you repeat that one more time?
Sure. It's the zone website, rizones33-34.org. They use the search tool right up in the top navigator bar, and just search on the word corporate.
Okay, if you'd put that in chat, I'm going to ask Jose a question here. So Jose, when you form a satellite club, and we call a companion club one that's going to it's going to stay affiliated with their parent club for a long time. So it's a satellite club. What are the requirements for officers, and what are the requirements for the size of the club, of the satellite club?
Sure. Thank you, Mike. So satellite clubs only require a minimum of 8 members to get started, and you simply need to find a host club that'd be more than willing to sponsor you, so you have those resources and support. And when it comes to the actual officers in the club, you'll have a chair rather than a club president. and that chair will have a support system because the satellite club can have its own bylaws if they decide to, or they can operate within the same bylaws and structure as the host club. That really just depends on the structure and relationship that the host club and the new satellite club develop early on. So it's always best have the conversation early to determine that structure so it's set up for success moving forward.
Okay, thank you. Mary, a question for you. They're talking about the relaxation of regular weekly meetings. Has that hindered membership engagement and, as a result, pulled down retention or increased attrition? Said a different way.
Well, like many answers, it depends. In some clubs, that may have encouraged engagement because they have not felt that pressure of, ooh, I have to be at every meeting and every event, and it becomes a burden, so I just leave. On the other hand, with some relaxed attendance requirements, maybe the onus is on the club to have that wow factor that folks are looking for, and increases that engagement. I know I've seen an increase in engagement in clubs who've now focused more heavily on service as opposed to attendance. And so I think service is the key for engagement for many clubs, or depending on what they're looking for, you need to know what your members are looking for out of their Rotary Club experience.
Okay, we've got time for just one last question here, and it deals with PR and how to advertise your club. One person said, how should we use PR effectively to promote our club and membership? And the other one said, how can we advertise our club? Has anybody found a good success on advertising or using social media? Terry.
I'll first say that I have not come across very many situations where any kind of paid advertising brought strangers to Rotary. Rotary is a membership organization, and membership organizations are typically populated by people the members know, and they bring them in because they know them and because they're like the rest of the members and have the same belief systems and so forth. So the idea of attracting strangers with postcards, mailings, ads, paid Facebook listings, that sort of stuff, the hit ratio on that is very, very low. On the other hand, social media has really emerged, both LinkedIn and Facebook primarily. Social media has really emerged as a contributor to getting people aware of Rotary, and particularly through not only just liking, but also sharing a Rotary event, for example, a service project, where you put some photographs on social media of members actually doing something together and appearing to enjoy it. Then what you got is something that somebody says, I like the look of that. Don't put the posed pictures of somebody, getting a Paul Harris Fellow or whatever up by a podium, but put pictures up of people doing something and then some comment about it, and have some fun with it. And then teach your members how to share rather than just like. And what that does is it exponentializes your reach, because you go out to all of their friends, and some of their friends may in fact spread that out beyond their circles. And that's really how you get the coverage that you need in order to attract new members, and new members that know something about not only the organization, but they know the person that sent it to them.
So Jose, 132nd, last one. So Terry mentioned Facebook. You're a younger group, out of a younger group. Should people be using Facebook? Terry mentioned something else. What should they be using if they want to appeal to a younger group?
I think you're hitting the nail on the head, Mike. It depends on your audience, right? Who you want to connect with determines the best platform to use. Because it's not just Facebook anymore. It's Instagram, it's Twitter, or X, now that it's named. In some cases, it's even YouTube and LinkedIn, right? It just depends on that audience. But my best recommendation would be two things. One, go to the Learning Center take those public image courses and learn all the best strategies on how to properly utilize PI to get the word out on the success that your club has and all the events and service projects. And two, go to elevaterotary.org because there's a number of additional resources there available for you, including public image individuals that can help teach you those best in-class strategies to use public image effectively. So thank you, Mike, for the time.
Okay, thank you all. And over to you, Patrick.
Thank you, Mike, for moderating that discussion. And thanks to our panelists, Jose Gonzalez, Mary Ligon, and Terry Weaver. The four of you work to grow Rotary membership every single day, and we appreciate your efforts and the information you just shared with us. Tonight's webinar has provided you with 10 of the best tips from the 2023-2024 MAP webinar series. As you saw, most of these tips were provided by club leaders whose clubs have achieved success in the membership arena. That's exactly what we strive to bring to you each month. Strategies that have been field tested and proven to work by those who have successfully implemented the strategies. Our MAP webinars are produced in just a 45-minute block, giving you bite-sized chunks of practical information that you can put into practice immediately. If you're new to the MAP webinar series, or if you just want to get refreshed on ideas that have been presented in the past, you can watch any or all of the past webinars by using the link that's being placed in the chat right now. Earlier in this broadcast, I shared Director Jeremy Hurst's comments that our membership action plan has grabbed the attention of other board members and senior staff at Rotary International. These leaders have noted the improvement in membership results in zones 33 and 34, and they know that means that we have stronger clubs serving our communities. They also know that our emphasis on membership, particularly through MAP, is part of our zone's improvement in membership. Director Jeremy is approaching the end of his term as Rotary International Director. He has led our zones and represented us on the RI board with true distinction. I've seen this firsthand as I've observed him in action during 3 of the 4 board meetings during this 2023-2024 Rotary year. Jeremy first convened and led the group that started the membership action plan, and he has remained an integral part of MAP since its inception. At a time when we talk about the importance of continuity of leadership, you can be sure of 2 things. First, MAP will continue with my full support. And second, after Jeremy gets a well-deserved break after serving as director, we will be re-engaging him as an important part of our membership action plan team. We ask that all of you take the same approach. MAP webinars are developed and presented by Rotarians for Rotarians. We need you to continue to support MAP through your attendance and by encouraging others to join us in our collective membership efforts. That includes other Rotarians who are committed to growing Rotary. And for those of you who are in leadership positions at the club or district level, it especially means sharing MAP with those who will succeed you. As has been said a couple of times tonight, membership is a team sport. We can only succeed if we all pull together to grow Rotary. We're counting on all of you to ensure MAP's continued success. And now it's my pleasure to turn the program back over to my good friend, Andy Van Hook.
Thanks, Patrick. There is no action item for June. Please finish adding your completed tasks on the website that was placed into the chat and you see there on your screen. We want to recognize your club for its accomplishments, and we can't do that unless you've completed your action items at the website listed. And our next webinar, and because we want to practice what we teach, we've listened to you. We'll be starting MAP webinars at 5:30 p.m. Eastern beginning in July. So speaking of July, ready to kickstart your year? The next MAP webinar will help you do just that. Kickstart your year Driving Membership Growth will be on Monday, July the 8th at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. Again, 5:30 p.m. on July 8th. You can register using the link that's in the chat. Thank you all for attending. Congrats on this past Rotary year, and looking forward to another exciting Rotary year starting July 1st. Have a great night.